in Dark Souls there are a lot of different ways to play, with some people choosing to do heavy weapons builds, some people choosing to do more dexterity focused builds, where you attack really fast, do a little less damage with a single attack, but overall you'll probably do a lot more damage. Or you could just go ahead and use magic. That's pretty cool. Big spells that use what's called FP, but I don't know if that's just an Elden Ring actually. But um, I call it mana because that's what it is. So that's how I'm going to be referring to it in this video. If I speak of it again. So today I'm going to be analyzing how well the Dark Souls 3 board game has been adapted from the digital version of Dark Souls 3, obviously. In this video, the gameplay and clips behind my voice aren't really going to mean much because I don't own the game, either of them. So it's a little difficult to get proper clips of the board game and the game. A little less difficult for the game. So we'll be starting off with a quick rundown of Dark Souls 3 and how it's played for people who haven't played it, which is technically me, but I've done some research into it, and I've played Elden Ring, so that's basically the same thing. They're pretty similar. And then we're going to be moving on to a short, basic explanation of how the combat works, mainly in the board game. And then we're going to be talking about how well the game has been adapted from digital to a tabletop. And, seeing the key differences, what's new, what's, the exact same, and what's been adapted. And let's get right into it. Dark Souls 3, well, not even just Dark Souls 3, all the Souls games are a fantasy RPG game, action. It's gained popularity through the difficulty of the games throughout the series, made by From Software Inc. Now we're going to be moving on to the actual board game. Well, no, actually, let's stay on the normal game for just a few minutes. So, Dark Souls 3, it's a pretty unique playstyle of third person rolling and dodging and then attacking at the right time so you don't get smacked by the boss or the enemy. It's quite strategic if you think about it, because you have to really study the enemy's movements and learn from them. So if you're having trouble on a boss, you can either... Well, I guess in Dark Souls it's more linear than Elden Ring, so you'll have to just study the boss's, movement patterns, attack patterns, and then you'll kind of just learn when to dodge. Obviously there's, lots of equipment, armor, weapons, magic, the whole shebang for a really good fantasy game. Now, moving on to the board game, I think honestly it has done a really good job of turning Dark Souls 3 turning it into a board game. Like, it's incredibly similar in the way that a board game can be, like the way it's played. So the Dark Souls 3 board game is a skirmish type of board game, so that means that there's only a few actual characters on the board at the same time. Somebody sets up the game first. I don't think it really matters who, because it's all randomized anyway, but there's a few tiles that you need to shuffle, and then you place them all down, and then you place down a bonfire. No, you place down the bonfire tile first, and then you place them according to that, and then you place a fog gate, so the boss gate, on the furthest door, quote unquote, I guess, from the bonfire tile, and then you shuffle an encounter deck, which is just a deck of cards with different enemy encounters, and you'll only have 4 other tiles other than the bonfire tile, and you'll just put down 4 of the cards down. It'll say the difficulty on the back. The higher difficulty will be closer to the gate, and the lower difficulty will obviously be closer to the bonfire tile. So it makes the game fair, because obviously level 1 characters aren't going to be able to properly fight a level 3 encounter, because it goes 1, 2, 3. And as they make their way through the encounters, they gain souls, just like in the Souls games. And when they're walking through their the other encounters, they're making decisions on who's going first in every encounter with the aggro token, which is a little skull icon that goes next to a character. And then from there, it'll go clockwise around the table. So now let's get into the actual combat side of the game. The way that the enemies attack, because they attack you first, and then you have to respond to that. But the the enemies will focus the person with the aggro token. So you should probably put the aggro token on someone that's pretty tanky, like the knight, because he's got a shield, a lot more offensive. You flip the encounter card over and then place down the enemies on the nodes corresponding to them. So there'll be 2 or 3 red nodes that the enemies spawn on, depending on how many are present on the card. There's also terrain cards, which are the purple nodes. This just means that it takes 1 extra stamina to move over there. Then moving on to the bottom of the card, if it has 2 spears facing inwards, then that means you need to shuffle the trap tokens and place them everywhere where there isn't a door. The entrance, you're not allowed to put any traps on that wall. When the enemy attacks you, if they're in range, they will have a amount of damage that they do. And if you choose to block, you'll have to look at your character's equipment and see if they have any block symbols on their equipment. If they don't, they're not allowed to block. And the amount of block symbols on the equipment means the amount of dice you roll to negate the damage of the incoming attack. So say they're doing 4 damage for an incoming attack, there's an archer, across the room, and the knight wants to block it, then the knight would need to roll 2 dice to block it, and they would both need to have 2 swords on them, so 1 sword equals 1 damage point. So he would need to roll a 4 or above to block the damage. If he rolls below, he'll still block some of the damage, but he will still get injured. And this is where the stamina bar comes into play, and what I was talking about earlier with the terrain. So when you take damage, you place a red square on your endurance bar, and there's 10 slots for the squares. And so when that bar fills up, your character will die. You place black cubes from the left to the right, and those are your stamina points that you've used, and then, the injuries are right to left. You can get rid of those if you drink your Estus Flask. However, that is only 1 use per encounter. Not even encounter, just per run. You also do lose 2 of the blocks, so you gain 2 stamina every time your turn starts. If dodging, you need to spend 1 stamina point to dodge, and on the enemy's attack, to the top right of their attack symbol, it will say on the top right of their movement symbol, which is on the right side for melee units, or physical units rather. On the top right of that, there will be a number with an axe on it, and that is the difficulty of the dodge. Say you're playing the assassin, who's got a lot of dodge capabilities, and it's a lot easier to dodge an attack than to block it, because when you're blocking it, you're blocking all the damage. So you'll need to get, quite a high number most likely. But when you're dodging, you'll only need to get like a 1 or a 2, really. And obviously, if you're rolling 2 dice, then you've got a pretty high chance. But once again, you look at your equipment. If your equipment says that you can dodge, you've got the necessary symbols, then dodge out the way. So that's the enemies attacking. When the players are attacking, you basically do the same thing. You roll a dice. The players can attack as many turns as their weapons allow. So if they have 2 weapons equipped in both hands, 1 weapon equipped in both hands, they've got 2 weapons, then they can attack twice. And all the weapons have certain things you can do that cost a certain amount of stamina. So there's an attack with the sword that costs 0 stamina. However, you only roll 1 black dice. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. So there's 3 types of dice when you're rolling: black, blue, and orange. I'm not sure if they actually do much differently. So the dice, the 3 different colors: the black, blue, and orange. Black can only go up to a maximum of 2 damage to block or deal. Blue can go up to 3, and orange can go up to 4. So obviously orange is only going to be on very, very costly attacks, very high level weapons. And so when attacking, the weapon you're holding will have the choice of using some stamina to do an attack with more dice, like one black and one blue, so you have a higher chance of doing more damage. Or you could spend no stamina and just roll a singular black dice. So when you've rolled that, you look at the enemy's data card that you're attacking, and then you look at the symbol that is like below their picture, and on the left side is their physical damage resistance, and on the right is their magical. So you subtract that number from your damage roll. Not both of them, only the type of damage that you're dealing out. So if you're doing physical damage, it's the left, magical the right. So subtract that number from your total, and then deal it to the enemy. If the enemy dies, they get taken off the board. If they don't, then you add a wound token. When the enemy dies and they have wound tokens, then you take them off the board. So now that I've explained the normal digital game and the board game systems of combat, I'm now going to just do like a quick analysis on how well I think, in my opinion, it's been done. Never playing Dark Souls, any of them yet. Only Elden Ring. I think from some of the gameplay I've seen, it has gone very, very well. Like this adaptation has been done very well. You know, lots of the encounters, the fighting style, I guess, is similar. Apart from the fact that in the Dark Souls digital, you obviously have to rely on your skill and, observing the movements of the enemies. Whereas in the board game, obviously, because you can't really not have it be RNG if it's in a board game, it wouldn't really work. I don't know how you do it unless you have another person playing as the enemies, which could be interesting actually. You probably could do that. That'd be interesting to do, because then it'd be PvP instead of PvE. So I think the character design has been done really well. Well, not really well. No, actually, yeah, no, it has done really well, but been done really well, because I don't think you'd be able to make your own character like properly like a D&D, because it doesn't really last that long. So you've got 4 characters to choose from, being the Knight, Assassin, Warrior, and Mr. Mageman. I forgot his name, to be honest. Obviously each character is better at some things than others. Like the Assassin's better at dodging than the Knight. The Knight's better at tanking stuff and blocking stuff than the Assassin. The Mage, the one I can't remember the name of, it's not a mage. I think it's a cleric. I'm not sure. Is good at healing and buffing the team, and the Warrior is a lot more damage focused. So it's got more attacks. He's got 2 weapons, 2 big axes, I'm pretty sure, or 2 swords, depending on what you want. I think the RNG of the treasure and the map on its own has been done quite well. Even if in Dark Souls, obviously all the encounters are already laid out beforehand, they're all coded in. So this enemy will spawn here, this enemy will do this, spawn here. Although the enemy's attacks, I suppose, are just based on where the player is. So yeah, the enemy just will do this depending on where the player is. So the RNG is kind of a need. Like it's a necessity in most board games, really. Because you're rolling dice, you can't control the dice unless you're cheating. But other than that, because that's not like a bad thing. That makes board games fun, But other than that, the game adaptation is really, really good. Like the encounters have thought out really well. All the enemies spawning in. The bosses have been thought out really well. I'm not sure if they're actually in the base game. I haven't played it. I'll have to find that out later. But the thought that's actually gone into this, obviously, it's From Software, so it makes sense. But that's about it, really. Well, thank you for watching my video. I've not really ever done anything like this ever. Like, literally ever. I mean, you know, I'm relatively new to Souls games, so makes sense. But I mean, just the analysis in general. Um, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Uh, let me know what you think. You know, if you think it's a good adaptation, bad adaptation. If you want to know more, I can make another video on it, on like a more in-depth of actually how to play. That'd be fun. Um, yeah. Alright, that's about it. See ya.